Hi, I'm Adam Thurgood, Managing Partner at Hightower Las Vegas. At Hightower Las Vegas, we manage four main strategies that we mix and match to align with our clients' financial planning objectives. The purpose of this video is to dive into the Defender strategy. So let's get into the details. There's an old Wall Street adage that says, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So we obviously don't want to be pigs, but there are times where you don't want to be overly bullish or overly bearish. So in an ever-changing investment landscape, how do you improve the odds of being on the right side of animal spirits? Rather than being bullish or bearish and embracing those spirits, we think there's a different animal that we need to embrace, and that is the spirit of the coyote. Coyotes are incredibly resilient. They are survivors because they're adaptable, clever, opportunistic, and resourceful. All traits that are essential for investors to navigate the complexities that we face today. Now, you can build resiliency into a portfolio by being truly diversified. When you have assets that respond differently to diverse economic conditions, you can put them together and reduce volatility and smooth out your ride. So as a starting point, the Defender has a highly diversified, median asset allocation where it has stocks and bonds, but it also has a meaningful weight to assets like precious metals and commodities, and even a bit of hedging is allowed within the portfolio to manage risk. But this allocation is not static. Like the coyote, we need to be adaptable. Charles Darwin has a famous quote where he says, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." Now, the coyote is incredibly adaptable. It can thrive in 115-degree heat in the Las Vegas desert or in the bitter cold of the Canadian Rockies. And it does this because it can actually regulate its body temperature. It can increase or decrease the thickness of its coat depending on the environment that it's in. So like the coyote, we need to be able to adapt the portfolio to the environment that we're in. So the Defender portfolio was built to be able to adapt its asset allocation to help better defend against certain economic environments that we might face. And we do that through having fairly flexible asset class ranges. For instance, stocks can go from 15% all the way up to 70%, gold can go from 0 to 30, bonds from 0 to 50, and so on and so forth. So these weights and the flexibility in the weights allow us to adapt to the environment that we're in. Now, we need to be more than just adaptable, we need to also be opportunistic. It's been said that opportunity is everywhere. You just have to develop the vision to see it. And like the coyote, we want to be focused on that opportunity. Now, coyotes are incredible masters of opportunity. They've been known, according to the National Park Service, of hunting alongside badgers and even listening to the sound of crows to go find an easy meal. So we want to be like that. We want to have our eyes wide open to opportunity and have the vision to see important relationships that others might be ignoring. Take, for example, correlations. When correlations change, so do the diversification benefits, and that can create risk or opportunity. Now, most people think in terms of averages. Over the last 50 years, the correlation between stocks and bonds has basically been zero, and the correlation between stocks and gold has also basically been zero. But these are not constant relationships. By looking under the surface, we can see that the correlation of stocks to bonds or stocks to gold has been all over the place, and it trends for a period of time. So that means that there are times where bonds are a much better hedge to stocks and times where gold is a much better hedge to stocks. In fact, gold's been a better hedge to stocks about 50% of the time. So understanding these correlation regimes can really help risk management and the ability to pounce on opportunities. So we want to be opportunistic, we want to be adaptable, but we also need to be resourceful. Now, coyotes are incredibly resourceful. They, first of all, can run really fast, up to 40 miles an hour, which helps them track down fast prey like rabbits and roadrunners. Yeah, I said roadrunners. We've been lied to, folks. A roadrunner can only hit a top speed of 26 miles an hour, so for those of us of a certain age, Wile E. Coyote would have caught that bird in every episode of the cartoon that we used to watch as kids. But I digress a little bit. Coyotes use their speed, but they also draw on all their other resources in order to make the kill and have their meal. So like the coyote, we need to make the most of the resources that we have at our disposal. And today we live in a data-rich world. So we've used our resources and our research providers to build a set of data-driven investment models that really help us adapt to changing environments by shifting asset allocations around. And there are 4 main models that we use for the Defender, and each of these models approaches the economy and the markets from a different lens. Some focus on inflation and growth, others on trends. And what we found is that when we combine these models together, it gives us a lot of insight into how to structure portfolios in a clever way so that we can navigate through those complexities. And in the words of Euripides, the bold are helpless without cleverness. So we want to be like the coyote and adapt our tactics and modify our stance based on the environment that we're facing as investors. So the Defender portfolio is really built to have that flexibility, to adapt asset allocations based on a data-driven process, and do so in a clever way that helps us build portfolios that might differ quite a bit from the traditional approach. And all we have to do is go back to 2022 to look at how a traditional approach might be challenged if, for instance, we enter an inflationary environment. A bond stock portfolio didn't do all that great in 2022, while commodities were absolutely ripping. So we've run through a couple of scenarios here to give you an idea of how the asset allocations can change based on the environments. For instance, in scenario 1, where we have growth and inflation accelerating, but central banks and governments not doing a great job of protecting their currencies, that's an environment where you want to have a lot of exposure to gold and commodities and basically no bonds or fixed income. However, in scenario 2, where you have growth and inflation decelerating and you have steep enough yield curves to be protecting the currency, that is an environment where bonds should dominate a portfolio along with cash and some hedged equity exposure. So we could run through a lot of different scenarios here, but the bottom line is that the strategy has been built so that it can be adaptable and opportunistic by making use of its resources and also being clever in the way that portfolios are constructed. So let me leave you with this. We are living through a very complex and ever-changing world. Animal spirits bounce back and forth. And the Defender portfolio was meant to harness and built to harness those animal spirits so that we can better mitigate risk while maintaining upside potential. So thanks for the time today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll see you next time.